Hey guys, I've just spent 4 days and almost 2,500 miles road tripping our Defender 90 from here to Phoenix. And in this video, I'm going to tell you everything that's great about it and some of the things that aren't. The Land Rover Defender comes in 3 flavors. There's this, the 90, which is the 2-door. There's the 110, which is the 4-door, and then there's the XL, which is the 130. Now, the 2-door is by far the sexiest. Come on, look at how good this thing looks. But there is a price to pay for all this 2-door goodness. First and foremost, these are the longest doors I have ever seen. And if you're in a parking lot, good luck opening them up this far. But if you want to put some people in the back seat, there's an issue. And that issue is there's a little button that you press right there, and then you wait. And you wait. And you wait. And you wait. And then you can fold the seat down, and then you can get in the back. The good news is, once you're in the back, there is plenty of room, but you have to do this then. And then you wait, and then you wait, and then you wait. I've heard tell that for the new 2025 model, they've solved this issue, but for the last couple of years, this is the penalty box if you own a 90. But you know what? You want to be stylish? There is always a price to pay. There's a bunch of different engine options when you buy a Defender, but this has the base engine, which is a 2-liter, 4-cylinder turbo that, get this, puts out 296 horsepower. And for zipping around town, for off-roading, and actually for road tripping, it's pretty darn good. I averaged about 20 mpg on my almost 2,500 mile road trip, which, you know, for a very big vehicle is pretty respectable. But when it comes to highway driving and trying to pass on the highway, that's when the almost 300 horsepower power plant just starts to be not enough. I gotta tell you, I am super surprised. So we have owned the 110, Defender 110. We reviewed the 130, but we have never touched the 90. And I was expecting this to be kind of like a 2-door Wrangler, you know, where it's kind of small and nimble. It's not.
Yeah, it definitely feels a little porky. And, you know, GVW on this thing is well over 6,000 pounds. Curb weight, we're knocking on the door of like 5K. So, I mean, this is a sizable vehicle. Going down the road, even though it does have that little stubby wheelbase, it actually rides pretty smooth. We're not bouncing or lurching around on this highway because it looks almost comical, but it feels pretty normal.
You've now been driving it for a couple hours. What do you feel about it?
Well, it's a very interesting vehicle. On one hand, it's very smooth and refined. This feels like a premium experience with adaptive cruise control and this beautiful leather stitched steering wheel. And then on the other hand, it's almost more Bronco with these rubber floors and kind of this short little wheelbase. So it's a very cool mix. And in fact, that's what makes the Defender unique, is that yes, you can get one that is dressed to the nines, or, especially in the UK, you can get one stripped down that's a little utility van. It spans such a wide range of customers. So we've got about 100 miles, and we are sitting at about 22.7 mpg.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big vehicle, so it's the smallest motor you can get. And usually when you have a lot of vehicle with a small motor, it ends up working harder, so it ends up using a little bit more gas. In some ways, maybe the V8 could even be more fuel efficient if you didn't get on the throttle too much. We bought this truck a few months ago with about 10,000 miles on it, and knew it was $63,000, and we got it for about $53,000. And what sold me were these 18-inch fake Steelies where somebody had put on BFG KO2s, and I thought, what a great combination, what a great looking off-roader. But it doesn't have the optional air suspension or the optional rear locker. So of course I was a little worried about what it was like off-road, and actually it's surprisingly good off-road. In fact, getting the coil springs instead of the air suspension is the move.
So one of the big differences between the Land Rover and the Jeep is this Land Rover has independent suspension on all 4 corners, which is a much more refined experience on-road, but let's see if that causes us to struggle off-road. So First thing you're going to notice is a little bit of traction loss. This is a seriously steep incline. We're looking at about 16 degrees right now, but it's going to get steeper as we go higher. That's close to 20 degrees now, 6-degree side slope, and we've got these elephant holes coming up. We're going to start lifting tires, and let's see if the four-wheel drive system can compensate with that with these open differentials.
Yeah, so it's going to have to figure it out because we're already losing traction.
There it is.
So now it's figuring it out, setting power to where there's traction. So far, so good. I'm really not modulating the accelerator very much. I'm just letting the vehicle figure it out because that's what Land Rover does so well.
There it goes. Wahoo!
Oh my. Not too much drama from my point of view, Tommy.
Yeah, it's just kicking butt. So that was a great example of the Land Rover four-wheel drive system doing its thing. So we picked up tires in the air, then the brakes actuated, forcing wheel speed to the tires on the ground. It was really good. The Land Rover is relying on a lot of software to make it incredibly capable off-road, where the Jeep is relying more on traditional old-school hardware with a sprinkling of software on there. I mean, what makes that Jeep work is also the brake lock differential system. Now, of course, the comments are going to say I would trust the Jeep system more because hardware is longer lasting. But, you know, even though we had some pretty significant issues, there we go, a little bit of work on that rock. We had some pretty significant issues with our first Defender. There's no way around that. From what I've been...
You mean our first 3 Defenders?
Yeah. What I have been following on the forums, though, people have genuinely been very happy with the long-term longevity of these Defenders. They seem pretty impressed with them.
Well, that's why we bought it. We wanted to come back and we wanted to finish a story that we never ended up telling.
Yeah.
So we wanted to see just how reliable or not reliable it is and just how off-road worthy or not it is. As you can see, Tommy and I compared this to our cheap Jeep, our long-term Wrangler. But what's it like when you take it to the mecca of off-roading, Moab? Well, that's one of the reasons I road tripped it. And I gotta tell you, I was not disappointed. This is surprisingly good off-road. I mean it, surprisingly good off-road, because you think this would be more of a mall crawler than a true off-roader. And yet, because of the short wheelbase, because of the great approach and departure angles, it does really well when push comes to shove. I've got my view of the wheels in front of me. And here I go, heading right for the camera. I just hit the skid plate, but that's what it's for. Make a little bit of a hard turn here. Get my tires in the air. And of course, this has independent suspension, which the Toyota guys and the Land Rover guys will say is fine off-road, but which the Jeep guys will say leaves you with wheels hanging in the air. And they're both right. I can't really tell where the drop-off is because that camera flattens everything out, but I assume it's right about here. There we go. Oh yeah, tires are slipping, car's slipping. I must be close to it. Oh yeah. Oh God. That's a little, oh yeah. That's a little butt crunchy. That is definitely a little butt crunchy. All right, now the back tire has to go over it. And whenever that rear wheel comes up, you feel like you're gonna tumble over sideways. And that is genuinely a little frightening. But we did it. Here we go. Just crawling my way up. Spinning tires. Holy cow! That was the easiest I've ever done that. Yes! The interior is kind of a mixed bag. Seats very comfortable for road tripping. The steering wheel is heated. The seats have these funky heating controls as well, which is really cool. And then of course you've got more or less a traditional gear selector. I love the fact that you have real buttons for your HVAC. You've got a real button for low range. And then of course, you've got Land Rover's famous terrain management, where you can select what kind of off-roading you'll be doing. Grass, okay, we don't want that. Mud, sand, ruts, or rock crawling, as I was doing in Moab. And this is all great. What isn't great is that this screen is pretty tiny compared to most modern screens. I do like the fact that you have this kind of pass-through back here. I'll show you. And then this, of course, harkens back to the original Defender, which is really nice as well. The cruise control is almost undecipherable. I mean, I've kind of figured it out, but you know, I still don't know what this limit button does. I do know what this button does. And then of course in here you can configure the instrument cluster. I like the traditional controls where you've got your speedometer here, and then of course you've got your tachometer there. This vehicle also has a giant sunroof, which is a lot of fun, especially when it's not too hot outside. And in general, you sit up tall and you have a really commanding view of the road, which is what Land Rovers are known for. And then the previous one that we owned, if you remember, was kind of a light gray material, maybe beige. That got dirty quickly. This black interior holds up much better. I especially like this material here, which is kind of a neoprene feel. All in all, it's a really nice place to be, especially on a long road trip. The only complaint that I have when spending lots of time in here is that, well, this part's falling off already. You can see, but it's not holding up, which of course gets to the question that you're all wondering about: long-term reliability. What's not so great, especially if you've got a lot of family or kids or road trip gear in the 90s, is that there's not a lot of room back here, as you can tell. And when you put these seats down, like so, come on, I can do it, like so, for some reason, there's this weird little step that keeps you from actually putting stuff on a flat floor. And then there's this material, which looks very functional and utilitarian, but it's got to be the slickest stuff around. I mean, you can go ice skating on it, and everything just slams around back here, especially when you're taking a corner at legal speeds, of course. Here's something crazy. This two-door four-banger, at least according to Land Rover, will tow up to 7,700 pounds. Now, of course, we're going to test that, but I got to say, I'm not sure I would want to tow anything more than 3,000 pounds, especially without a brake controller. And even with the, let's say, a remote brake controller, 7,700 pounds seems very ambitious for a vehicle that's relatively short and, relatively small for that much weight. Let's recap. The good is that you've got one of the best looking and one of the most capable Land Rovers out there. The bad, well, if you're going to get the 90, the two-door, you're going to pay by lack of utility and, of course, the back seat. Now, the ugly, damn, there is no ugly. I mean, look at this thing. It is one heck of a gorgeous car. You've got this Pangea green with this Fuji white top. I mean, it doesn't get much better looking than that. Now, of course, all of you may be screaming, what about reliability? Everybody knows that Land Rovers just break apart over the course of 4 or 5 miles. So far, over the course of 5,000 miles, we've had 0 issues with it, but the day is young, the car is young. We'll see what happens, especially if we keep it past its warranty, which we probably won't. And maybe that's the answer to your question. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Remember, check out alltfl.com for more news, views, and short-term Land Rover Defender 90 reviews.